Hello everyone, this is SWTOR Snoopy here, back with another SWTOR plug video. Today I have guys another SWTOR plug discussion video. In today's discussion video, we're going to be going over the idea of can the game be single player. So this is essentially my way of kind of doing a discussion piece on why I personally believe the game can be played essentially as a single player game, even though there are MMO aspects to it. So like I said, this is just going to be a discussion on just kind of like this topic and why, even if you don't really want to play an MMO, this game still might be good to try, or at least sub for a month just so you can get access to all of the story content. So I hope you guys enjoy this SWTOR plug discussion video. As always, if you guys enjoy these videos, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let's get right into this video. Alrighty guys, let's get into this right now. So the short answer to the question, can this game be a single player, is of course yes. And the reason I say that is because of since the game is now obviously free to play, you can just access all of the different main vanilla stories from the start, and then you can just play through all of those, whether it means deleting characters or creating new accounts to of course get through everything, just with different tunes. If you don't want to become preferred, it is always an option right there. But if you do subscribe for a month, you do get access to all of the story content that has been released up to this point. So a lot of players obviously do subscribe, and they just play through all of the story just for a nice cheap price of $15. Now, like I said, I feel like this game can be a single player game if you really want it to be. I think that's one thing about this game, just in the MMO market, is you really, I feel like this game is flexible in the sense that it doesn't even really have to be an MMO if you don't want it to be. Sure, it has a lot of multiplayer aspects, flashpoints, raids, just PvP, all the nice stuff that you do see in MMOs, but at the same time, it's flexible enough that it has a really nice voice acted story. It has all this different stuff just with the Knights of the Eternal Throne, Fallen Empire, Shadow of Revan, Rise of the Cartel, and the vanilla story. All those things combined, you have a lot of I say aspects just if you want to play the game essentially as a single player story. And I think that is a good advantage for the game, but also a disadvantage, because obviously if you're playing the game as an MMO, you do want to see all of the extra multiplayer content. You want to see a lot of it, because obviously you are paying $15 a month. Typically, if you do want to you just want to use all of those different multiplayer aspects, and you also want to see new expansions, just releasing new raids and all that different stuff. So I think it's good. I feel like this game is good in a hybrid, in the sense that yes, you can play it as a single player game, but at the same time there are multiplayer aspects that you can of course use, and it still can be an MMO, but at the same time it is kind of different with how the game landscape is. Now, I think something that a lot of people kind of are driven away, because even if they do want to play the story, they feel like they're going to have to go through the endless grind of just leveling and all that different stuff to experience the story. And personally, from my perspective, I think you can definitely play this game, even if you are, like, for example, preferred. You can still definitely play through just all these different story elements of this game with almost no problem with your leveling. Because if you just take down all the enemies in these story missions, just take down all the trash mobs, complete the bonuses, and just continue to go through the class missions, you probably won't have too much of an issue through the leveling. You can essentially just kind of level as you go with the story. You're not going to really have to do too many detours unless you absolutely want to, which is also okay. But I think with how the game has changed, just with the level sync and all that different stuff, it's very, very easy to level now. It's kind of gotten to the point where if you just want to go through the story, you don't really have to worry about anything else. So the leveling parts, just all those different miscellaneous stuff that you find with MMOs, isn't that big of a grind at this point, if you ask me. I think it's something that you can just passively go through, just not having to worry about a single thing. At least just with me recently, because I've been leveling an Imperial Agent, and what I've actually noticed with that is that he's been leveling just fine, just going through all the class stories. Granted, he does have an experience boost, and he has some extra perks through the legacy, but still, I haven't seen much of an issue with that. Just as long as you have some spare creds around, you can just make the leveling process faster. But if you're just going in completely blind, essentially just starting the game and creating your first character, you probably won't have too much of an issue with leveling, so you can just not worry too much about that. Now, another thing that a lot of people worry about is if they are going to play this game as essentially a single player game. This worry is there a lot of stuff that does tag you into multiplayer. Do you have to play multiplayer aspects to just get through the main story? Which is kind of partially true. I mean, even like I said, obviously this game is still marketed as an MMO, and you do want to play it, or people want to play it for the raids and all that different stuff. But with the main class story, all that stuff is single player. All these story aspects can be single player just for the main kind of like quest lines. But at the same time, there are extra things that do require multiplayer aspects. For example, if you just do the Oricon missions just with the Dread Masters, at the end you do have to go through the operations to complete the story. And then sometimes there are Flashpoint arcs, which are definitely really, really good. And you can obviously complete those with a group of players. But sometimes I believe that some of these story arcs do have a story mode, just single player ways now, so you don't have to actually group with people. But the main thing about Flashpoints is even if you're free to play or preferred, you can still actually access these, so you don't have to stay subbed to get through the quest line. But for some of the quest lines, for example, just with the Dread operations, you do need to be subbed in order to actually access these and of course finish the story. Now, my personal take on it is I absolutely enjoy playing the multiplayer aspects of the game and playing the game as an MMO as a whole. I just like all the stuff that really just combined with the game. I think it really just adds a lot of stuff to the whole entire atmosphere itself. But at the same time, if you do want to play this as a single player game and or you don't really want to worry about the multiplayer content, it still is completely an option. Like I said, I feel like that's the one thing that is kind of interesting with this game, is you could theoretically play it as kind of like a hybrid MMO if you really wanted to, or more or less, if you just wanted to just play these stories, not really worry about anything else, it still is an option right there. It's the same reason why a lot of people do advise the one sub, essentially, the one sub and done right at this point. I mean, you can still theoretically, there is, like I said, there's a lot of multiplayer stuff that you can get into. But as of recently, there's been a lot of expansions and stuff related to the story. So if you really just want to get into all that story content and all that different stuff, then a one sub and done tactic actually isn't that big of a deal. It actually is pretty smart if you just want to not only, just spend only $15 and get all the story content to play through, but also just to honestly, save money if you aren't going to really play raids, PvP, and all that other stuff. That is, essentially an option with the game. So, personally, I think the main thing to conclude is, yes, it is 100% possible you can play this essentially as a single-player game, just with some multiplayer things added on. But at the same time, I feel like if you don't play like an MMO, you definitely are missing out. But if you do want to play this as a single-player game, honestly, I think you should. There's a lot of really good stuff with this game. And personally, I just want to keep it real here. I don't want to just say, you can't play this game as a single-player game. It's just all multiplayer. Because I think that is the one thing that is unique about this game, is you really can play it almost any way you possibly want to. The only thing that I wish at this point is that they will release more multiplayer content at a faster rate, and or we will see just new stuff that is really interesting for the MMO landscape. But that's going to be it for this Star Wars The Old Republic discussion video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like. And if you guys want to support me in more ways than one, the Patreon link, among other things, are in the description down below. But like I said, that's all for now, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.